Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Housing Minister says the new CPEP uniforms will command respect from society. Trade and Industry Minister says government remains committed to the transformation of the investment sector into one that will attract foreign businesses to these shores. And government and citizens need to work together in order to aid plans to end flooding in the capital city by 2015. Thank you for joining us. Transformation of the investment sector into one that will attract foreign businesses to these shores is set to be taking shape. Trade and Industry Minister Vasan Baran says government remains committed to working with the private sector in making this a reality in the near future. He was speaking during a breakfast meeting held by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce.
Trade and Industry Minister Vasan Barath says government continues to make important decisions that will see the private sector benefiting in numerous ways. The minister made the disclosure during a breakfast meeting held by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, where he says dialogue between both the private and public sector are vital if the growth of the economy is to be achieved.
I have now mandated that all future negotiations that be under my watch that is to be conducted and concluded with any partner outside of Trinidad and Tobago must involve the Chamber of Commerce and the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. So that, I hope, Catherine, puts to rest the point that you were making with regard to involvement of the private sector.
He says government continues to forge relations with foreign organizations in an effort to make investment overseas easier for local businesses.
We currently have on the table several negotiations with the European Union, EPA that you may know about, with Latin and South American countries, and with other markets across the world.
Minister Barath adds that the business development company will be transformed into a new company titled Export TT, charged with creating competitive spaces for local and foreign businesses.
And will be involved in developing internationally competitive organizations in Trinidad and Tobago. Now let me say that although I say it's going to be involved in developing export competitive organizations and industries, clearly to be export competitive you have to be locally competitive. And so therefore the BDC, the Export TT company, will be assisting companies to grow within the national context. And the next step, of course, will be to be able to export to the CARICOM region and then the South and Central American region and then, of course, further afield.
The minister says the ministry continues to work towards addressing a number of bureaucratic issues affecting investors as well as local entrepreneurs. Kimberly Ram-Calawan, News 4.
There are plans to end flooding in the capital city by 2015, so says Minister of the Environment and Water Resources, Senator the Honourable Ganga Singh.
Minister Singh has toured the detention ponds in Port of Spain as he seeks to end the flooding in the city. The minister met with a representative of the Engineers Drainage Division in an attempt to analyze the drainage network system and determine a solution. Minister Singh says, based on his observations, a large amount of money will have to be invested into the drainage infrastructure in Port of Spain if the problem is to be fixed. He notes that drainage infrastructure in Port of Spain has not kept pace with the city's development and now needs serious upgrading and expanding. He says sourcing funding for the works necessary is next on the agenda.
The Ministry of Planning, in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, we are working with the IDB with a view to finding funding for the major investment required for the drainage infrastructure in the city. The fact of the matter is that since the 1960s, we put down sewage infrastructure under lock joint, and there has been no major investment in the drainage infrastructure. So what we engage now really is a kind of palliative, but the malady is deep and it requires investment, it requires designing, it requires significant level of planning to ensure that Port of Spain is a sustainable city.
Senator Singh says the government will do its part, but persons need to be educated about the consequences of dumping garbage in the watercourses.
We will be piloting the beverage container bill to deal with the whole question of plastic bottles and Tetra Paks and so on. But we also need people to begin the process of not dumping into the streams, into the canals, and into the rivers in order to ensure that we do not have that kind of blockage when the rains come.
Minister Singh also draws attention to the effect climate change is having on the problem. He says all these things considered, the solution to the problem must be a constant one.
We recognize also that climate change is impacting upon us and that the rains are very intense and so for a shorter period you have a higher level of volume of rainfall taking place.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
When we come back, CPEP transforms and rebrands with new uniforms. Stay with us. Welcome back. A new uniform distinguishing CPEP workers while at the same time providing safety has been launched. The new gear, while green in color, comes at a time when the company is transforming and seeking to rebrand its image as one that aims at caring for the environment. Housing Minister Dr. The Honorable Rudal Munilal says the uniforms will command respect from society.
Persons working with the Community-Based Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, CPEP, will now be recognized by the wearing of green overalls while on duty. The new uniforms, while green in color, will provide safety and at the same time make their presence known in the environment they conduct their services. Housing Minister Dr. Rudal Munilal says the new uniforms will seek to command respect from society.
Your organization today has taken another step to gain respect by the national community and by workers. And I think that's a very important matter. My friend Grant there is always talking about image. For many years when we talk about image and looks and how important that is for the conduct of our business. These uniforms are part of government policy to ensure that workers are made to feel valued and respected for the service you provide. In this regard, CPEP is being proactive and taking steps to ensure workers are looked after and provided with the tools and amenities that you need to do your job.
According to General Manager of CPEP, Carl Jagdeo, it's more than a uniform but protective gear fulfilling the requirements of OSH laws.
For us at the CPEP Company Limited, under the direction of the Board of Directors and the leadership of our Chairman, Mr. Adish Denarain, the launch of this uniform today is another signature event of lifting the bar of how the CPEP Company Limited now conducts its business. 2.5 years ago, the CPEP Company has laid the organizational framework and the infrastructure to ensure that the OSHA obligations under which we fall are fulfilled.
Chairman of the company, Adish Denarain, describes the new gear as one that promotes the company's professionalism at all levels.
The uniforms were tailored to provide protection and create a safer work environment. The sturdy material of the uniforms is ideal for disaster zones and will protect the skin against flying objects as well as protect against any damage from the sunlight. The uniform also serves as high visibility clothing, which is a criterion for workers who perform duties along the roadsides. The commitment of the contractors' workers to our goal of environmental enhancement is a true testament to their hard work. The CPEP program turns 10 this year, and this milestone is culminated in the emergence of a new company, one that focuses on employee inclusion, upliftment, and training.
The new uniforms are part of an effort to reposition and rebrand the company's changing objectives that seek to protect and enhance the environment at higher levels. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
In other news, Education Minister Dr. The Honorable Tim Gopi Singh has plans to introduce works from local authors into the primary school education system. He reveals this as Nallis pays tribute to local authors in an Independence Golden Anniversary tribute.
The Nallis Lifetime Literary Awards recognizes authors of imaginative literature who have contributed significantly to the literacy landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. The persons honored have received national, regional, and in some cases even international recognition for their literary works, which have reflected the local customs and culture of Trinidad and Tobago. According to Education Minister Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, the authors recognized by NALIS have been credited with building this country's literary foundations and aiding in its social, political, and even economical development. Dr. Gopi Singh says it is for this reason, among others, he will ensure the honorees' works live on through our youth.
In many instances, the writings of a lot of these authors remain on our CXC lists. And I recognize more than ever the need to have these texts and writing promoted in our primary schools in addition to our secondary schools. NALIS, as you may know, was placed under my portfolio recently as Minister of Education in the June Cabinet reshuffle. And I intend to ensure that they play a very important role in promoting our historic and current writers and literature in our schools, so our younger generations will never be lost to the rich and great works that we have spawned as a nation and continue to spawn.
He adds that there are many benefits to be gained by introducing arts and literature to the nation's children from as early as primary school.
It is time that we recognize as a country that investing in the arts, especially our literature, is not only a brilliant strategy that diversifies the economy, promotes employment, gender equality, and reduces crime, as it allows our young people an opportunity to develop their creativity and make a career from it, but also a way of showcasing and promoting our history and cultural heritage for generations to come.
Meanwhile, one of the award's recipients, distinguished author Dr. Earl Lovelace, while appreciative of the award, notes the need to recognize young and upcoming writers. He says they will shape the future and as such deserve just as much recognition as young sportsmen for their contribution.
When I began, there were a few writers. Now I see more and more writers emerging. They come from diverse backgrounds and are likely to provide us with a great variety of vision and insight into the Caribbean. I wish that we grasp how important they are to us and that we pay attention to their development at least as much as we pay attention to the development of cricketers and athletes.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
The West Indies, Bangladesh, and W Connection, all in the Sport Report. Stay with us. Spotlight in our News 4 Sportscast at the close of play on day one of the second test versus Bangladesh in Khulna. The West Indies are in a dicey position with the home team on 365 for 8. Now the Windies were doing well until an unbroken 9th wicket stand between Abul Hassan and Mahmudullah. Bangladesh was struggling on 193 for 8 before the pair came together in a record partnership for the 9th wicket, which is also the 4th highest ever in all tests. The 20-year-old Hassan, who was dropped when he was on 42, is unbeaten on 100 and his partner on 72. Before making the history-making stand, Fidel Edwards was the star of the day for the regional team after picking up a handful of wickets. He ended the day's play with figures of 5 for 81. Captain Darren Sammy chipped in with 2 for 61. And on to football. W Connection FC will begin the defense of their Toyota Classic title on Friday at the Manny Ramjohn Stadium in Marabella. The unique knockout tournament brings together top 8 teams from the National Super League and the 8 Pro League clubs to do battle for a $50,000 first prize. The draw for the contest was made on Tuesday at the Hazley Crawford Stadium, and some interesting matchups were revealed. Wayne Cunningham has more.
The top 2 footballing divisions in Trinidad and Tobago will come together once again to contest the Toyota Classic. The knockout tournament between the National Super League and the TT Pro League kicks off with a preliminary round on Friday, 23 November, with games nationwide. CEO of the TT Pro League, Dexter Skeen, emphasized to the players the importance of maintaining high all-round standards.
Undoubtedly, it is a competition aimed at bringing out the best in the players and coaches of both leagues. It is therefore a reality that much more is at stake than the trophy and prize money. In this context, I want to use this opportunity to call on the players to accept their responsibility to strive for excellence, not only on the field but off the field. As a former national footballer myself, for whom November 19th will always have melancholy significance, I have experienced the feeling of regret and deep doubt. But I have used that day as a catalyst to learn and improve. I also wish there was a TT Pro League in my day, and therefore sometimes I look on with a tinge of envy.
Former FIFA assistant referee Douglas James is technical director for the National Super League, and he is pleased with the continued growth of the teams in his division, which can be measured with this tournament.
This all initiated when Tony Harford and Dexter Skeen got together sometime in 2005. And today, 12 years later, we see where this competition has evolved into something really big, into something wonderful, into something good for football in Trinidad and Tobago. What we have seen here is that the Super League teams being able to come up to, as we say, scratch, being able to play at the level of the Pro League. And it's an opportunity that we were able to have based on that conversation which took place between Harford and Dexter Skeen back then.
The draw for the contest was then made. Once again, Eastern teams Caledonia AIA and FC Santa Rosa will meet in a knockout contest. Super League leaders Wassa FC will tackle St. Anne's Rangers in another enticing pairing. The other matchups will feature Northeast Stars versus Siparia Spurs. Defence Force Super League outfit will have their hands full with W Connection FC, while their Pro Leaguers must be wary of Tobago's 1976 FC Phoenix. The other team from the sister isle, Stokely Vale FC, will come up against Police, with defending Super League champs Joe Public FC facing TN Tech. Pro League newcomers Central FC will also have a fight on their hands versus Westside Superstars, although their manager, Norris Ferguson, does not think so.
Well, actually, we thought today was a presentation because we came to collect the trophy. So the atmosphere, obviously, we expect to win, so that's why we're here.
Games kick off at 6 p.m. at all major stadia this Friday for the 8th edition of the Classic. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
This is your News 4 report. We'll be right back. Success stories were told to YTEP trainees at a funding seminar on business ownership, a guide to success. The trainees got a first-hand opportunity to ask questions on career choices that will best reflect the business they wish to pursue or that they wish to pursue in the near future.
Miss Catherine Bettel is the managing director of Bee's Homemade Ice Cream Limited. Her early years were spent at San Juan, where she lived with her parents. Birthed from humble beginnings with strong moral and spiritual values, Catherine is just one of the many successful persons who, like many of the trainees, attended YTEP. Today, she is proud of her achievements as a successful business owner.
Starting a business, having an idea of a business is always the easiest thing because, sometimes we have these great ideas, we always thinking, using our imagination and all that. So that part of it is always easy. The most difficult part, what I think I would have seen or over the years would have been starting your business is to just start, and I think that is the primary advice I will give to anybody.
She adds that being persistent in life goes a long way.
And after class, I will go and help Andy sell the ice cream on the streets. I could remember my sister and certain friends passing and saying, but what you doing? You know, what you're doing, because, you know, you get that type of negative response, because what you're doing after you go to school, what you're doing standing up on the side of the street selling ice cream. And that time, you know, there wasn't anything, any concept like that really of cats on the side of the street. So I went through all of that, you know, you could say subtle ridicule and talking down to from family and some friends kind of scoffing you. So, but today, it's a different story.
Business owner Miss Paula Stowe shared her success stories and gave trainees points on how to make their business a success. She says she was always determined to do what she felt was best for her, always desiring more out of life.
And I decided to I saved money at the bank and I decided to go to Florida to do my training in aesthetics. When I came back, I met this lovely gentleman who's now my husband, Brian Stowe. He was a fireman, and he shared the same vision of leaving his job and opening his own business. It's now Port Rock Trading. It's right there in the People's Mall, and we have a branch in Trin City. And he encouraged me and strengthened me to really leave the job and open my own business.
And Roger Alexis, creator of Santana the Movie, which has morphed into a very successful franchise operation, shared with the trainees his journey into small business.
I started off doing my hobby, which is puppetry and filmmaking, and I have turned that into my occupation right now, which is, you know, a film production company.
Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.